Hello friends, welcome back to our 15th module, 17th module. Here we will be discussing about the second MAC layer. In fact, we will continue doing that in the next module as well. Here in this module, we will be talking about Wi-Fi as a MAC. In this module, we will look at few basic functionalities of wireless Wi-Fi MAC layer. In the next module, we will be looking at latest extensions provided for value addition, quality control, quality of communication. How that is done, we will look at in the next module. In this particular module, let us see what we are going to talk about. We are going to look at some difference. We begin with the difference between wired and wireless communication. In the case of wired case, when you are stretching a wire between two computers, you can use any frequency you want. Now, nobody is going to tell you that you should not use this frequency or that. Unlike that, a wireless communication, you can't use any frequency that you want. Why? Because it is open and available to all. There is always some arbitration, some control by the government, and you can't choose any frequencies that you want. You will have to pay license fees for that. And wired communication is no longer using a broadcast domain. So, you will be able to use two machines. They decide the frequency to use over that wire. Nothing else, nobody else is going to do anything, and there are two parallel wires running the same frequency, nobody bothers. But in case of wireless channel, two machines using the same frequency in vicinity will obviously their signals collide, and what we get is garbage. That is a problem in wireless communication. But then there are two things which I would like to talk about in the beginning. First thing is quite inferior to Ethernet. Ethernet has reached to 10 GB, and wireless communication is leapfrogging, but not to that extent. 1 GB has become common today, but that is maximum that you get right now. There are three different modes. In fact, first mode we have seen, we mentioned about both modes in the previous module. One is DCF, the other one is PCF, or infrastructure and ad hoc mode. And we will be looking at both of them in little more detail, and there is an hybrid mode which is latest added by extensions. So, we will be looking at these three modes, and there are multiple types of communication. We will be looking at which type of communication. For example, a DCF or ad hoc mode have two different types of communication. One where you use that RTS and CTS, request to send and clear to send. Remember, this is something we looked at. Problem of physical layer, wireless physical layer. We looked at those two problems, and we have seen that RTS, CTS is a mechanism. There is one more solution is to use without. So, this is possible to have multiple communication ways to communicate between two parties, and we will be discussing about that as well. We will begin with what are the challenges that you have at wireless MAC layer. There are few challenges that you would like to address. The first, they travel much lesser distance, because they spread energy in all directions. So, the length of propagation is reduced, because energy spreads in all directions. Range used is highly crowded, so others are also using it. So, there is a lot of possibility of interference and so on. And the other one is speed drops with distance, that is something called free path loss, the energy loss. So, speed, the capacity to transmit is lost, reduced. So, bandwidth is the other one. This you get 11 MB or 54 MB or 1 GB or 600 MB, whatever you get actually is shared. So, in case of Ethernet, we have 10 nodes, all 10 nodes is a fast Ethernet, which is a very little lower type of Ethernet today. Every node can send and receive at 100 MB each. In case of wireless network, and if you are using 802.11a which or 11g, which provides 54 MB, 54 MB is not available to a single node, it is available to everybody together. So, it is basically shared. So, that is one. Additionally, interference is to be managed. If there are multiple senders using same frequency, they will interfere with each other, and multipath fading is a problem in that region as well. One more thing, the free range which is being used by Wi-Fi, government restricts that thing on power. So, you can't use lot of power to send and receive, there is always a cap on that power. That means you will not be able to send your signal to a distance beyond a point. Okay. By that time system the signal is diminished to a point that after which receiver will not be able to understand what is being sent. Okay. Sometimes line of sight makes a problem, because if it is both sender and receiver are aligned, they will get the right signal. If they are not, the alignment is little disturbed, you will not be able to receive the signal properly. So, that could all, these are problems, and there are a few other problems. One is obstacles and their placement. If there is an obstacle, you won't receive the reception, but sometimes a bigger obstacles behind smaller one allow you to access the wireless signal. And here is an example. The sender is sending and it is a normal obstacle. If this big obstacle is not there, the receiver will not receive the signal. But because of that big obstacle, the signal bounces back from that big obstacle. So, the receiver is able to receive that signal. Now, this is something you probably have seen when you have raised an antenna at your rooftop for accepting a Doordarshan satellite, Doordarshan not satellite, Doordarshan towers signal. You are not able to do that, some big building nearby, you try target them, you probably will get a bounced off signal, okay, from Doordarshan. So, it is something which is possible. Okay. There are different ranges, and different ranges provide different qualities of transmission. For example, if you use a megahertz range, remember we have talked about the complete EM spectrum. If you use that megahertz range, that travels much longer. The very range used by our satellite dish antenna travels 3 lakh kilometers up and down, and we are still able to receive perfect TV signal. But the Wi-Fi signal that we use in our home, okay, will not, if you go further, okay, 100 meters or so, you will stop receiving those signals. So, some wireless ranges are very good, some wireless ranges are not all that good. Okay. So, that is the difference. Modulation scheme that you use also infer that has something to do with the quality. We have already discussed that. So, I will not discuss that again here. Ad hoc infrastructure and hybrid modes, in fact, there is no single mode, there are multiple modes, and it is quite possible that all three of them are active in a given range. It is going to complicate everything. Okay. So, when you have to handle these complications, okay, which were not there in wired case. Here we have this case, there is an access point, would like to control everybody who is communicating with, there is one more node interested in talking to some other node directly in the same range, and they are going to interfere into each other's business. So, how to manage all this is to be solved. In fact, that solution is to be found. So, for that, in fact, it needs management and control frames. We talked about RTS and CTS. We also have heard about the SEK frames, we will be again mentioning them here. Those are critical control frames, we need them, but then there are some management frames also, like whenever you connect to access point, when you disconnect with access point, when you authenticate yourself to access point, you need to send and receive some additional frames. They are not data frames, they are for management of yourself as a node to that wireless network. So, those are management frames. So, you need to, it complicates everything too much. Okay. So, that is the other problem. In fact, there is the other issue, the quality of service. If I am placing a VoIP call over wired network, is not much of a trouble, I have a huge bandwidth, but in case of wireless, it is going to be a trouble, because I have less bandwidth. But then if I want to make sure that the real time traffic gets higher precedence than conventional traffic, normal traffic, I need to provide quality of service, and that is what precisely Wi-Fi extensions are, which we are going to discuss in the next module. So, all in all, this is actually quite convoluted. Okay. Anyway, let us talk about each one of them. We will begin with the DCF mode or distributed control function mode, which is basically an ad hoc mode, two computers communicating directly to each other without any intermediary like access point. And we have already seen CSMA and the other one is without. Okay. But then the direct mode, when, okay, let me let us recap this CSMA CA mode and we will go back and understand it. Okay, let us see what when sender is ready, we will wait for DIFS and then send the RTS. The receiver wait for SIFS, will soon understand what these time periods are and why they are there. It is a very clever mechanism, as I have told you earlier, and it sends the clear to send. This is request to send, clear to send is received. When it is received, in fact, everybody here who are members, the surrounding people, surrounding computers, surrounding nodes, runs network allocation vector or NAV. The network allocation vector indicates that they should remain quiet for this period while the transmission of this frame is on. Okay. And the frame is sent, it will wait for SIFS and send an acknowledgement back. Now, this is how it works. The direct mode, you just wait for DIFS and send your frame, and the receiver upon receipt of the frame in a correct fashion will send back the acknowledgement and the job is done. If it is garbled, if the frame is garbled in the middle, okay, it is garbled. Okay, there is no, if there is a collision, it is a collision. Okay. This sounds quite similar to Ethernet. Remember, Ethernet also, the first version also, Ethernet normally also is designed that way. You just send frame and remember that CSMA CD, you wait for it, and if there is a collision, you retransmit. The same thing, it seems the same thing, it is not. In fact, when I start sending a frame, I do not stop in between. Even if it is collided, I have no way to learning it back. In case of Ethernet, you can send and receive at the same point of time. So, you know that I am putting 5 volt and I am getting 7 volts, and that is something different. Somebody is additionally sending 2 volt. So, there is a collision. So, I know that there is a collision and I can stop immediately. Even when the frame is not sent completely, I can stop. Here I can't do that, because usually this wireless devices use something called a half duplex radio. So, which cannot listen at the same point of time when it is sending. Okay. So, I just send a frame, and if I do not get the acknowledgement, I learn that it is collided. I do not have any other mechanism of learning that collision, about that collision. Okay. So, that is one difference. In fact, those are here listed. It does not check for collisions and stop in the middle, that is the first difference. Every frame is acknowledged in stop and wait mode. So, unlike Ethernet, where I send a bunch of frames and I can run that, I have those sliding windows and all that, nothing here. I just send one frame at a time and wait for that to come back. I do not have larger number of frames. In the first version, in extension it is possible to send multiple frames together, here it is not. Okay. Long frames, if it is longer than required, they are fragmented, cut into pieces, because the error rate is so high. Remember, we discussed about that. When the data link layer provides, it introduces lot of errors. The issue is that you need fragmentation, it is better you send shorter frames, so likelihood is less. For just take an example, I have a frame size of 1000 bytes. Okay. I have a frame size of 1000 bytes, and there is a likelihood of 1 bit error in 1000 bytes. What is the probability that the frame is in error? 100%, because it is 1000 bytes, 1 bit error, there is a probability that every frame is in error. Okay. What if I divide this thing into 10 frames of 100 byte each? What is the probability that one of the frame is in error? 1 upon 10, because every 1000 byte you have an error. So, 100 byte I am sending 10 frames, 9 frames will go at the other end without much of a trouble. So, it is a good idea to divide 1000 byte long frame into 100 byte shorter frames, because then I have the likelihood of 9 out of 10 frames reaching at the other end without much of a trouble. So, that is great thing. Okay. So, long frames are fragmented. Need network allocation vector is something that the neighbors run to make sure they do not interfere in this particular transmission. Okay. Short interframe spacing, SIFS, we will discuss about that, as I said little later, and DCF interframe spacing or DIFS, we need all this to operate. Okay. And this is something we have already talked about, the CSMA CDA and direct transmission. Okay. The fragmentation also happens almost the same fashion. Pay little more close attention to this spacing. Only in the beginning you have this DIFS for the first fragment. The response always comes after SIFS and subsequent fragments are also sent after SIFS. Okay. SIFS, short interframe spacing, is little shorter than DIFS. Why it is done? We will discuss. Okay. The PCF mode, the earlier were distributed control function or ad hoc mode. Now, this is PCF mode, which is basically managed by using an access point control function. Why? This was invented obviously to reduce the possibility of collision. There is a single access point which manages everything, so there is no possibility of collision, because that administrator, single arbitrator, is going to decide who is going to send next. Okay. So, there is no likelihood of collision. Okay. How it happens? Access point polls everybody, okay, who is interested in sending, and whoever responds will allocate them the frequency, typical frequency to operate and the time. Only then that party can send, not otherwise. So, this is how it controls. This polling is done using a typical frame called beacon frame. Okay. Okay. There are total 13 channels possible. In case of Wi-Fi, 2.4 gigahertz to 2.48 gigahertz can allow total 22 megahertz channel. Okay. The channel, every channel is 22 megahertz wide. You can have total 13 channels. 2 of them are used by access point itself to poll, the rest are available to us. But then these channels cannot be used directly. Why? Because they are interleaving, okay, they overlap. So, non-overlapping you can get 3, in some cases you get 4, but in most cases you get 3 non-overlapping channels. That means, in a given range 2.4 to 2.48 gigahertz, access point can actually send and receive. With that, only 3 devices can send and receive at that point of time. Okay. Others will have to remain quiet. All 11 in US you have 11 channels, rest of the world you have 12 channels, India also you have 12 channels. You can't use all those 12 channels at the same point of time. You can only use non-overlapping 3 to 4 channels that are available to you. Okay. AP sends beacon frame with details and SSID of the network. Service set identifier is the name of the network. Okay. So, access points sends that thing. Okay. So, whenever a device starts functioning, we will learn about that access point SSID. Unprotected and protected modes are also there. Unprotected mode allows you to connect to that access point without any form of authentication. Protected mode requires you to authenticate with that access point. All so called hotspots where you can just connect to, okay, usually run in unprotected mode. Okay. Usually, in fact, whenever there is an authentication process, the current authentication process happens in 2-step mode, is like this. So, whenever this is a node and here is an AP. So, when node joins, we will talk to AP, but I like to connect to you, and AP asks for credentials. They provide your credentials, username, password, whatever, PIN number, whatever. Okay. But AP actually will not authenticate you, it's something else. For example, this access point is your BSNL router that you normally have in your house. Then you are not authenticated by that router, but authenticated at the BSNL place. Okay. Okay. So, BSNL own network, okay, this is the BSNL network, your AP is connected here with something called authentication server or AS. Your authentication process happens at this place. Okay, it is basically a 2-step process. Here is a protocol called EAPOL. extensible authentication protocol over LAN. This is the normal protocol used. There are other possibilities, you can use other protocols. Normally, it is this protocol. And from AP to AS, there is a protocol called Remote Access Dial-up User Service, RADIUS, dialing user service. So, RADIUS is a protocol, and there is the later version also called diameter. Now, this is an acronym of anything. Okay. This is the other version. So, is that basically a two-step process, your node to AP and AP to AS. Okay. So, that is done here. Okay. So, the two-step authentication process relayed by AP to authentication server, and RADIUS and EAPOL are normally used. Okay. And this is many a times our devices are configured for automated connection. So, usually when you open your laptop and just look at that network icon, click on that network icon, you will see a lot of networks around. How? Because your laptop actually look at all possible, all 12 channels, will continue listening to those channels, and nearby access points broadcast that SSID using those beacon frames. So, the laptop receives all those beacon frames. In the beacon frames contains that SSID. So, that SSID is listed on your system. So, you will be able to see those network names. Okay. So, he can choose an SSID for connecting it, double click on it, or it is also possible for authenticated that thing is automated. In fact, you can say that this is my default network. So, automatically connect to it, and it will also authenticate you on few bases like a MAC address verification. So, your laptop's MAC address is verified at the other end, and if the MAC address matches, you are allowed to come in. There is a PIN that you need to enter, okay, a password, a small value, and BSNL case usually it is your mobile number, and also an IP address. It is also possible for you to make sure that your AP is not seen by laptops. Okay. So, you will get a message called hidden network, or you will not even get that. So, at that point of time, you will have to type in the SSID value, and if you know the right value, you will be able to connect to that network. In that case, it is called a hidden network. Okay. But remember, even if the message is encrypted, SSID is always broadcasted in clear, obviously for this reason. A beacon frame which every access point broadcast in the entire network periodically is very important, because mobile devices checks every channel in the beginning for beacons, and multiple AP makes a node receive multiple beacons, and obviously you can choose between. Device can populate the list of networks around looking at these beacon frames. User chooses, or an automated default choice is also picked up, that is your way of configuring your laptop or even the mobile phone. Okay. Now, what exactly happens when you choose something, double click on a typical network? What happens is called an associate service primitive. Now, there are few service primitives that we are going to talk about now. Okay. This is, we are discussing the PCF or infrastructure mode, point coordinated function mode, that happens using some management frames, and management frames are represented by something called service primitives or ways to manage the communication between AP and node. Here are some. Associate is the first one, is kind of a request from AP or from node to AP for connection. Okay. So, associate is kind of a request, is executed by the mobile node when the choice is made, a default or whatever, double clicking or whatever. So, that associate is the first one. Associate chooses two things, not only network, but access point as well. Okay. So, if you here you choose the access point here, but then access point is part of some other network. So, you choose both together by clicking. Okay. And the job of associate is to send the request for connection to the network. Now, request is honored or not is secondary, associate is executed. Okay. The second one is endorsement. Okay. So, you send the associate's request, second is to prove yourself that who you are. In the beginning, the first version, this was not mandatory, whoever can come can connect to wireless network, but now we have all realized that it is something that we should avoid. So, additional mechanism based on 802.11i is introduced, which I talked about actually, the AP to AS communication, EAPOL and radius, that is basically that process. I have not discussed that process in more detail, probably you need to read a book on network security or cryptography and network security, where such things are described, to read more about that part. Okay. But then this is critical, authentication is very critical. So, that is done. Original version was minimal, current version is based on 11i, technically it is known as IEEE wireless protected access version 2, okay. Something which I already talked about, the extensible authentication process, okay. EAPOL, radius and diameter, I talked about all of them. Okay. So, this is authentication. Once authentication is over, authentication is one thing, the other thing is, if you are sending something, the third party should not be able to read and understand what you are sending. For example, I am an examiner and I am sending a question paper to university, the other person who is reading my message should not get that question paper. So, what I should be doing actually, I should be converting that question paper into a form nobody understands, okay. Only the recipient can convert it back to the original form. That process is known as encryption, and that also is provided in Wi-Fi network through a primitive called privacy. The first primitive is authentication primitive, the next primitive is called privacy, which encrypts my data. Okay. Most popular algorithms used are advanced encryption scheme or AES, advanced encryption system, or there is something called RC4. Okay. So, both of them are used in practice, in most cases it is AES. Okay. Once authentication and privacy part is done, privacy is optional, you may skip that. Okay. You may prefer not to send data in an encrypted fashion, let anybody read it, it is not at all an issue. Data transmission is basically the next thing which is most critical. You are sending, you doing all this for sending and receiving some information. So, data transmission is the primitive that is most critical for or most important for people who are using Wi-Fi. Okay. So, the real work is done by this primitive. This allows mechanism to send data from a wireless device to AP and then AP to the receiving device. Please understand, there is no direct communication, it is to AP and yes, to AP and from AP to the recipient. Okay. No direct device to device communication. Okay. So, after data transmission, obviously there are other primitives needed for other cases. First case is where I am part of one cell and the receiver is part of some other cell. These cells are known as basic service set or BSS. Now, how a sender and receiver will communicate in this case? The sender and receiver communicate in this case using two additional primitives. One is called integration, okay, which allows the different access points to be in a single platform. So, they can share information. Sender belongs to cell owned by one access point and receiver belongs to cell owned by second access point, can communicate to each other using, if the integration primitive is run executed by this access points. Additionally, distribution. Okay. So, distribution allows merging frames from one network to the other, and the integration actually is extending it, especially for Ethernet case. Now, here it is a case where I have this network, okay. This is my access point and here are 3 nodes I am communicating, this is AP1 and here is AP2 and here are the nodes of that access point. If this is my sender and this is the receiver, if these two are connected to each other using an Ethernet network, I need both. In fact, distribution primitive connects this two, but integration primitive needs to convert. This is a wireless frame which reaches here, that wireless frame is converted to Ethernet, wireless to Ethernet. Conversion takes place here. From Ethernet, it is converted to wireless yet again at this place. So, integration primitive requires this conversion process as well. and this is not as easy as it sounds, okay, and we will see why so later. Okay. And it is very complex and not completely foolproof. You will not get everything as it is back. Okay. So, integration and distribution primitives were two, but then you need additional primitives for supporting the mobility of a node, because anyway the advantage why Wi-Fi is being used is so, like we have seen, there are a lot of obstacles, a lot of issues with it. The speed is not there, even whatever speed that we have is also shared, the distance is also an issue. Why people are using it? Obviously, biggest advantage is mobility. So, here are some of the primitives which help us our node to remain mobile. The first one is called relocation. You moving from one access point to the other. So, these two access points run that relocation with the node. All three of them run this primitive to make sure when node leaves one access point and connects the second access point, continue sending a file. For example, he is downloading a file from somewhere and is moving also. So, he is downloading file from one access point, now he connects to the second access point, he will continue doing that. How that is done is very complicated, it is not all that simple, but this we are not going to discuss that in detail, but you can understand that this is really necessary for mobility. This primitive is called relocation, okay, relocation primitive. Okay. And both the AP and the node execute relocation jointly, then and then this is possible. The other case is, well, node switch off itself or logs out from the network, or the battery drains out. So, node cannot communicate. So, it automatically executes something called, remember the first primitive was associate. So, it runs something called deassociate and deauthenticate also. Once that primitive is executed, the very node, if wants to communicate again, will have to execute associate primitive. So, that is the next thing. Interestingly, one typical case when AP is going down for maintenance, it will also execute disassociate primitive. So, when that happens, it disconnects from its side. Okay. Normally, in most cases the node disconnects itself, sometimes AP does that as well. Okay. Here are the list of service primitives and what is their job, what is their prerequisite, and what is the next primitive that will be executed. Okay. For example, the associate primitive, what is the job of associate? Connect node to the network, in fact sending a request. What is the prerequisite? Access point should be on, is ready, okay, to accept. Next primitive is authentication. What does authentication do? It validates the AP as well as the optionally node, both of them are validated, and the prerequisite association is already done, then and then authentication is possible, otherwise not. Once this is done, privacy is done, as I said, it is optional, you may skip it, okay. You can start data transmission if that is skipped. Privacy, which is optional, but what does it do? It decides two things, okay. Decide the type of encryption, okay, and is also there something called the size of key, okay. So, for example, I am using AES, I have few choices, I can use 128 bit key or 256 bit key or 392 bit key. So, I can decide that as well. So, that decides that encryption, and sometimes in fact, the latest mechanism is to use complete suite for the process, okay. And I am not going to describe that thing in more detail right now, but again you can refer to some security book and you will be able to understand this many things which gets exchanged in this particular process. However, basically the job of this privacy is to make sure that when the data starts transmitted, it is encrypted as well. So, even if a third party read or look at the frame, will not get anything out of it. Okay. For privacy, authentication must be done beforehand, okay. And next primitive is obviously data transmission. Data transmission, what does that data transmission do? Actual data is sent and received, okay. The prerequisite association and authentication and privacy are to be done. Now, authentication is almost a must, but by design of standard it is optional. The next primitive, after this thing, if your job is done, you just disassociate or you move on, you have relocation. Okay. Or if the recipient is part of some other network, you need distribution. If recipient is part of the network connected by Ethernet, you need integration. So, these are the next set of primitives. Distribution, when sender transmission across various networks, either wired or wireless, then you need distribution. Okay. Prerequisite is data transmission. Data transmission can once data transmission primitive is chosen, then and then you can talk about distributing it. After that, you can disassociate, or if it is an Ethernet connection, you need to convert that wired frame, wireless frame into wired and the other way around at the other end. So, integration primitive also requires to be executed, and then it is quite possible that you move further. So, relocation might also be required. Integration, the same thing, maybe disassociation and relocation is needed. It is basically transmission across an Ethernet network, and the prerequisite is distribution. If it is distribution, then integration is possible. Okay. Relocation, sender moves from one access point to another, okay, one cell to the other. Prerequisite, obviously it is associated with its current AP, then and then he can reassociate with the new AP. Okay. After that, he can deassociate or distribution, integration or relocation, depending on what the user wants to do. De-authentication and disassociation are exactly the reverse process of the earlier case. Okay. So, these authentication sender logs out. Okay. It is not disconnected yet, but logs out. So, it is not authenticated any longer. It has to be authenticated for de-authentication, obviously, and next primitive can only be disassociate, nothing else. Disassociation happens when node goes out of range or AP going down for maintenance or switching off or battery is drained or whatever. Okay. Prerequisite, obviously you are associated earlier, so you disassociate, and once this disassociation is done, okay, if you want to do anything, you will have to do association. So, these are the service primitives, and with that this we will conclude this module. Remember what we have looked at in this module. We will be talking about Wi-Fi MAC layer in 2 modules, this module and the next module. This module will be discussing, we have discussed 2 modes, PCF and DCF, ad hoc and infrastructure mode. We have discussed how DCF mode works. DCF is basically 2 computers talking to each other directly, and also how PCF mode works, where you have an access point where everybody is communicating under the instructions of AP. And when AP is managing everything, we have also seen that the AP requires a few primitives to work, and we have seen all of them, all of those primitives starting from associate to disassociate, including authentication. We have also looked at 2-step authentication process that is demanded by current Wi-Fi networks based on EAPOIL and radius protocols. Is a 2-step process, which we have also seen. Eventually, we looked at all service primitives, and we are ready for actually learning about extensions in the next module. We will basically concentrate on how the very mechanism that we are using fall short of required expectations for quality of service, and how the extensions make it better for those kind of services. With that note, I would like to conclude. Thank you all, friends.